So, what to say about the Great Purification? Well, what is nice about this song is that there's only a handful of riffs, so you learn those and you got the whole song down. So that's the first thing that stands out to me every time I kind of get back to this song. The second thing that stands out to me that won't apply to you since it's already been figured out and you've got the tab in front of you is when I was transcribing this, there was times where I thought I had it right. I'd come back to it a week or so later, play along with it, and go, oh, that don't sound right. I must have the note wrong. And I think that, obviously is my ear to some degree, but a lot of it is when it's tuned this low, sometimes it's hard to pick out what's going on. And that just reminded me of something else. When it's tuned so low, it's hard to pick out what's going on. So if you look at a riff starting at 19 seconds, the second half of that riff, this being the first album I've really gone in and tried to transcribe, there was something interesting happening in the second half of this riff and some other songs on this album is you can't hear what the guitar's doing. And some, when you're kind of micro listening to it, it's muddy. And, I guess there's always the possibility that maybe the guitarists were in sync with each other on one little part. But it's probably more just them being tuned low and it not cutting through. And I think also there's a bit of maybe a chorus or a flange that they've got going on that's real subtle in their guitar tones, and that could make some aspects of some of their riffs kind of hard to distinguish. So that's an interesting thing that happens here in this song and other songs on this album is when you're listening to it in kind of a micro detail, it's like, what's going on there? I can't really hear. And again, for those reasons. So let's take a look at first riff. The first riff at the intro, real straightforward. Again, that's one where I had a note or two off, and then I come back to it a week later, and it's like, oh, okay, it's playing a different position. Sounds clear. So not much to mention there, and I will go over these riffs following this page. The second riff had two things that stood out that I want to point out. And if you look at the fifth string on here, it's called C string, and it's the last two notes right before the power chords. May not be a challenge for you, maybe just my playing style and physiology. Just going from the second fret to the first fret was difficult because it was like my hand was in a relaxed position. Everything was ready to kind of stretch from second, third, and to higher frets, and I had to incorporate more forearm and practice that to slide my hand the other direction to fret one. So I guess I just say that if you have a problem with it, stick with it. It'll come. For me, it didn't feel well, and it's like it was incorporating forearm opposed to hand and wrist movements. So that was something that stood out on that one for me. And you'll also notice I have these little carrots that signify upstrokes. In my normal playing, it's all usually alternate picking, like triplets or something like that, or downstrokes. So I usually never play upstrokes. And I point that out here because don't try to downstroke this, because I don't think you will be able to duplicate their sound. I think that's just part of their style, their flow. And if you're not much of an upstroke player, suck it up. Do it here. I mean, that's what I've had to do. It's every time I rewatch some of these videos where I've recorded something of their song, it's like, geez, I'm doing a lot of upstrokes, and I never do that. Well, as far as I can tell, that's what needs to be done to duplicate their sound, because that's probably what they're doing. Could be wrong, but it sounds correct to me. The next riff over on 19 seconds, the second half of this one, yeah, I had set the song down and came back to it and I had transcribed it all wrong, and then it took me, I don't know, a good chunk of time to relearn the pattern. And this is a pattern that I suggest, if it doesn't click with you, that you stick with it. And the reason I say that is it didn't click with me. This is not the way I would do an alternate picking pattern. And I'm thankful for them to have this kind of pattern to work through and learn, because it's counterintuitive to the way I would attack something. And so it's great. It adds variation. It's creative. And again, I've got the carrots on the upstrokes. Do the upstrokes. And if you'll notice on this pattern, there's like a downstroke, upstroke, couple muted open strings or muted strings, and then it's like chug. I can't even think about it. It's just not the way I think. But when I do the demonstration on it, I'll slow it down, and you'll kind of see the pattern. And on this pattern, you'll notice that the last set of power chords, or the second to last set, I've got a little space in there. My ear is not good enough to determine, do they actually really have like a slight rest going on in there? I think they do. I just had to learn this one by feel. So know that rest right there might be a little longer. Maybe I'm making it up in my mind, but kind of learn the pattern and then the timing, kind of get it by feel. And the riff at 46 seconds is the same thing that we've already gone over, and that we'll go over in the prior two. And the riff at 47 seconds, pretty straightforward. If you can play power chords, you can play that riff, and the last three power chords at the end is got that upstroke in the middle. So let's get to it. So I have to call out an inconsistency in my playing and the tab. On the riff at 0.05, the first time it hits the open G string, I have that as being attacked at the pick, yet I hit that with a pull-off. I would say go with the pull-off, and that's a little nuance that I struggle with, because that's kind of like their own playing style, where mine would be a little different. So I kind of sometimes, beyond my best efforts, my mind just goes the way I'd want to play, and sometimes I hit that. But I believe the way they played on the album is with a pull-off, and so the tab should indicate that as a pull-off, but it doesn't. As I had mentioned prior, there's not that many riffs in this song, so tab sheet 2 is just a repeating of riffs that were already demonstrated on page 1. So I'll leave this page up for a little bit without any demonstration. Tab sheets 3 and 4. 4 is just a duplicate of all the riffs that will have been covered by sheets 1 and 3. So there won't be any demonstrations on those, because everything will have already been demonstrated. So let's talk about the riffs on sheet 3. There's a new riff that comes in here, and it's basically starts with the slide into the 3rd fret. And frankly, this was one of my favorite parts of the song when I first learned it. When you play this riff at this low tuning, and I believe it's towards the end of the song where they've got the chorus and they're like, burn! You put that over this riff, and everything just comes together, and it's just perfect. It sets the ambiance, and it's fun to be playing an instrument that kind of blends in and creates that ambiance, opposed to just playing notes and stuff. It's nice when everything just kind of comes together and creates that feel. So enjoy playing that riff. Simple, but it was the fun part, at least in the beginning. And then as you get used to it, you'll find other fun parts within the song.